Thank you, Marshall. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to January 21st, 2026 CalPADS Q&A. My name is Paul Higgins. I'm a data analyst working at CSIS supporting CalPADS. All right, moving into announcements. Gary has thoughtfully brought up our calendar because Fall 1 is ending this Friday at 11:59 p.m. If you are not SELPA certified by then, you're in trouble. So I know that I have a few LEAs that have been decertifying this week, and it's driving me mad. If you are one of them, please know that I'm mad at you. Uh, no, not really, but please get your Fall 1 data in line, get it certified or get it LEA approved quickly. Your SELPA does need time to review it, otherwise they're just rubber stamping it. They need to actually do their work too. So please get it done, get it over to your SELPA, and we can close out Fall 1. There was no build this week because of the final deadline. Angela, is there anything buggy we need to know about this week?
Not that I want to talk about here. Thanks.
Understood. Matt, do you want to talk about the March regionals?
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul. So registration for the March 2026 CalPADS regional update meetings is now available on the CSIS training registration page. The March regionals will consist in a 2-hour webinar that provides timely updates and relevant information for the end of year submissions in the 25-26 school year. Registration is designed to take place by region, and information on the counties included in each region are included in each course offering on the CSIS training registration page. The American Sign Language interpreter services for the March regionals will be provided in the March 4th, 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. session. And that's all I got, Paul.
Appreciate it, Matt. CDE, I know we got Milo, and we're in a top shelf situation today where we also have Brandy. So does CDE have anything to share with the group?
Are you Penny? No, we don't have any specific updates from SPED, at least.
Very good. I appreciate you joining us today, Brandy. All right. Moving on, I don't think we have anything else for announcements. So let's go ahead and move into the Q&A, and nobody's posted anything there.
Where are all
yes.
the questions?
Alex, not Tandy. Yeah, 305. Where are all the questions? Good question. Okay, now they're coming in. Q1, Corey, 306. Good afternoon. We have a student who was initially classified as EO in 2015. About 2 months later, their ELAS status was changed to IFEP. The student is now in our LEA, and we believe the reclassification was done in error. Can we add a new SELA record to change the student back to EO? And what correction reason code would we use? I think 4, ineligible student tested would be the appropriate, but I wanted to verify. If I recall correctly, in 2016, we were not a TOMS LPAC system. We were still using whatever that test was. And once they were tested, even if they were tested in error, that status sticks because the official documentation is out there, the test was given, and it is what it is. You can file an appeal, but it is what it is. The data at that point, we've matured a little bit, so we do have the ability now through TOMS and LPAC to allow for more, say, granularity, more detail, a little bit more nuance in there. But back in that time frame, we were dealing with just very basic blocks. And if they were tested, whatever that status is, sticks. Anybody have any? What's that?
Paul, I just wanted to point out also that reclassification is not the same as initially fluent English proficient. So I just wanted to point that out. Typically, IFEP is a status that's used after the test was administered and they were initially identified fluent English proficient based on the score that they received on that test, the one that was prior to the LPAC. And thank you. Woo, go out your brain. But if they tested proficient on the SELPs, then they would have a designation of identified fluent English proficient. Reclassification is something different. It means they tested below proficiency level and they eventually were reclassified based on a series of factors.
And again, thank you, Brandy. Appreciate that. Moving on to Terry 307 Q1. The county has 4 categories for staff gender. F, M, X, and U, undisclosed. Does CalPADS have a conversion for undisclosed? And I'm looking at the code set right now that's being brought up, and we do not have a U. We only have the F, M, and X. I am not sure what would, I can guarantee that that would come out as a GER 7 submitting a value that doesn't exist in the code set if you sent up a U. I would suggest putting in a ticket on that one, and we'll send it up to CDE and see what they want, what their preference is in that case. Do they want the X, or what do they want in that case? Yeah, I'm not sure what guidance to provide you there. Anyone else? Any thoughts? Terry, just please put in a ticket and we will get it up to them and see what they say. Ethan 308 Q1 regarding EL Ed services. If we have a teacher without the necessary EL authorizations to provide our standard service codes we've set as a default in our courses, e.g. 3 integrated ELD only, is it appropriate to report just their sections with 5 no EL services? Sometimes it seems these CRSE fields are meant to be the inherent setup for the course and not what actually is provided in the class on the ground. I believe that you report exactly what the teacher is qualified to teach and what's happening in reality. So if there are no EL services being provided in that classroom, identify it as such, say 5 no EL services. That standard template that you use, that's probably great for your data entry and saving time. But my understanding is that you're reporting what's happening in that classroom and you're reporting what that teacher's qualifications are, or certificated qualifications are. So yeah, it's the truth of what's actually going on the ground in that classroom.
And Ethan, the other thing that you should know is that in either of those scenarios, it's going to generate an exception in CalSAS. In either of those scenarios, if you say no services are provided, but there's English learners in there, or if you say they're integrated ELD and the teacher doesn't have the authorization. So those are both going to generate exceptions, just so you know.
So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. There you go. Sue-Ann, hi Sue-Ann. Q1, are ed services based on the student's or the teacher's credential? Yes, they are. They're both. It's whatever's happening in the classroom, for the student and whatever the teacher is authorized per their credential. Jennifer 310 Q1, we're affected by issue 7340. Should we wait to recertify fall 1? The issue title looks like it's not affecting snapshots, only real-time reports. Real-time reports are separate from your snapshot reports. If you need to recertify, you need to get on that now. Not later this evening, not tomorrow, do it today. And 7340, inconsistent posture. Yes, that's only the real-time reports. So you can work in your fall 1 reports and do it quickly, please. Carrie, 310, Q1. What course title and number do you need to use for reporting RSP, or does it matter? Do we create the course for just that teacher with no students? And is the course RSP the same course they push into? I know that they need to be reported with job classification 27 with the state course code 9231. And Sue-Ann responded, job class 27 must have an itinerant RSP, itinerant invoice section, course section 3.1, non-core courses. Okay. And sorry, we're pulling up the FAQ on the topic there, showing what those courses for those 27 itinerant pull-out push-in teachers are. And in this case, the RSP.
Here, I put the link in the chat.
Thank you, Alex.
The chat. Where's my chat?
All right, so link to that FAQ has just been posted, and I think it was just posted. I think I saw that go up.
Not coming up for me for some reason. Oh, there it goes. It's just really slow. Here?
There it is. If the teacher is providing support instruction, supplementary, blah, blah, blah. All right, that FAQ should get you right on the right track to create those courses with using the instructional strategy code 700. It's going to be just for those students. You don't need to roster them. All right. Bavita at 311 Q1. If a student with an IEP is marked as ESN and is only in 9231 RSP class under mild or moderate teacher, will this be an exception in CalSAS? For 9231 state code, I see CalSAS appropriate credentials for CalPADS course codes page with both mild and moderate extensive learning training. All right, hold on, let me see. Can you pull up the valid? Oh, there it is. Perfect. Thank you. In the valid code combos, we have, nope, not that one. It's the, where is it? Right click on that arrow.
I think she's referring to the CTC page for the appropriate credentials for CalPADS course codes. That's what she's referring to there. It's on the CTC's website. And she just posted it in the
okay.
question.
Let's get over there then.
So what I will say about 9231 is RSP teachers have there's a specific process that particular, when you use that RSP course code, okay, how do I explain this? So what they only evaluate the degree of support when that teacher's section is marked with instructional strategy code 700. And many of you are going to say, hey, well, we use instructional strategy code 700 special education for course code 9231, right? We're identifying that as a special education setting. But this particular course code is unique because the CTC actually evaluates this course based solely on the course code. They don't look at the instructional strategy in this case. So as long as the teacher meets the requirements that are outlined here, then they should be okay and it shouldn't generate an exception. I hope that answers your question, Bavita.
Thank you, Brandy. I appreciate you weighing in on that.
No problem.
And then, yeah, the reason that I think I got just kind of confused was because for us, the degree of support has been an issue for when to use it. So if, their disability code is such that you're using the appropriate degree of support to describe them in their plan, I don't think that there's anything preventing you from enrolling them in that 9231. But as Brandy points out, it's going to depend on what's going on in that course. So,
right. But the other thing that I wanted to say is that the degree of support specifically is captured for each student in case they are placed in a special education setting. And so what we're looking for there are where 100% of the students in the class, it's more like a special day class. So if 100% of students in the class are students with disabilities, the curriculum was specifically designed for students with disabilities, and they have one of the qualifying disabilities, then you would have to identify the degree of support and the teacher would have to have the appropriate authorizations in that setting. RSP teachers are different because they're providing support services oftentimes in a pull out or push in setting. So their courses are evaluated differently and not based on that instructional strategy code of 700 in CalSAS.
Again, top shelf, Brandy. Top shelf. Thank you. Eric at 311. Q1, could you please advise on where I can find the list of available languages and their corresponding language codes that parents can select? We are experiencing difficulties with our current list because it includes Mandarin, Cantonese, and Chinese, other Chinese language, when parents select Chinese. It complicates the process of mapping test accommodations and tools for CASP. I want to ensure that if the Chinese language is not listed in CalPADS, it can be. All right, in the CalPADS code sets, Gary has just brought up the language code set. Then he went over to the end date, verified that we're only looking at current codes. So the NA shows that it's still open and available. And what remains there when filtered on language and only open records will return all of the active coding. The reports themselves are still pulling the 2-digit numerical codes as well. So you're going to see that listed on your reports, together until we cycle out all of those 2-digit codes, and that's just going to take probably the next 10 years, literally. But these are the current codes that are in play that you should be able to select from and provide as an option to your parents that are selecting. All right, Jemmy at 313, Q1. Who is or are the intended audience or audiences for the CalPADS regional update meetings? Is it just for the data folks? Thanks.
So happy you asked. Thank you for the question. So the intended audience for the regionals is CalPADS administrators, CalPADS coordinators, and staff who are in the CalPADS system performing work. So coordinators and kind of frontline CalPADS staff will learn the kind of updates and reminders in the level of detail that will help you to submit records with fields configured appropriately and will help you to know what to look for in your reports. And the administrators and higher level leadership will get kind of an overview of the policies that are affecting CalPADS work in the end of year submissions in the 25-26 academic year. And Gary has, or Alex, I believe is driving, has very helpfully, Gary. Okay, thanks, Gary. Has very helpfully highlighted the intended audience field on the CSIS training registration page. And we do try to have this field be appropriate for each course. So there are 4 sessions of the March regionals for the 4 different regions, and CalPADS administrators and CalPADS staff are listed as the intended audience there.
Perfect, Matt. Thank you much. Moving on to Leah at 314, Q1. Data discrepancies module only has Fall 1 and Fall 2 as options for the submission cycles. When will the EOY be available to check for discipline warnings and errors? That was
Next Tuesday.
There it is. Thank you.
It's
you, Leah.
it's supposed to be on right now. There was a bug and then actually was fixed a while ago, but we just haven't had any releases because of the Fall 1 deadline. And so that will go in next week.
I was going to say, I think that it got noticed last week and then we weren't having a build this week, so we were just going to be out of luck for a while. All right, Clarissa, 315 Q1. Given the update to CalPADS terms and conditions on 10/28/25, what is the CSIS plan to develop APIs for accessing, including automated access to the CalPADS system to generate reports?
I believe the update to the CalPADS terms and conditions that you're referring to, Clarissa, is the addition of the data scraping language that went into the terms and conditions in October of 2025. And I don't know necessarily that CSIS would be the appropriate party for the question about APIs. I think that is a discussion with the CDE as well. I haven't, Angela, you can jump in if you've heard anything. I haven't heard anything close to a final plan for developing APIs for CalPADS reports.
Yeah, I've heard like long-term plans, but not any specifics. So I don't have anything to give you, Clarissa. Sorry.
All right. But if Clarissa, if you'd like to email me to discuss how your LEA was formerly using data scraping and what solutions are available to you now, I would love to have that conversation.
Sorry, I was on mute talking to myself over here. Let's move on to Catherine at 315 Q1. I've been showing 0 errors in my fall 2 data discrepancies for about a week, but I'm still showing the errors I have corrected in my certification for fall 2. Do we know why and when these errors will be showing in the same data discrepancies and certification data for fall 2? I'm a little reluctant to pull up your certification screen in front of the world and everybody. So if somebody could check the data discrepancies versus the certification screen, I'm suspecting there's some cert errors sitting over there that are not part of data discrepancies. Because if your data discrepancies are clean, then your data discrepancies are clean. But cert errors still exist that are only displayed on your cert screen or on the certification details screen. So we're going to have that out in just a second. Let's see what they have to say.
That's what it was, Paul. She's got 7 cert 46 cert 46 errors. So Catherine, and probably just for everybody on just a refresher, that there's some legacy certification errors that didn't get migrated over to the data discrepancy screen, and they typically happen when it's something like at the school level or the district level. Your errors are, I don't know why this one didn't get migrated over. It seems like it would have, but you've got some staff with FTE that's greater than 200% or less than 5%.
If I recall correctly, that one wasn't migrated over because it crossed boundaries, of schools or something, and they didn't want to have to start mixing whatever. I don't remember exactly, but there was an issue with that one. I remember discussing.
So yeah, you need both the screens to be clear of fatal errors before you can certify.
All right. Thank you for checking on that
I think,
and giving her that answer.
is it Gary that's driving? Is that what we said? Yeah, Gary. So I think he's gone to the CERT 46 error. There it is.
Oh,
Thanks,
very
Gary.
nice. There it is. Staff over 200%. And it's all sites within the LEA. So if they're working at multiple sites, multiple job classifications, they sum them all up.
She's the other direction, Paul. She's got a teacher with 1.00 FTE. And in prior years, it was 100% FTE. So I'm guessing that's probably a typo. So you're just missing a couple of zeros before the decimal point.
Yep. You don't submit them as decimals. You actually convert it into a whole number. So 100% would just be put in as 100. And if you went to the CFS, Gary can do it, but don't worry about it. If you go to the CFS, it provides all of the formatting for what each cell should look like. So it'll tell you not to put in 1.0. It'll tell you to put in 100.00. All right. And Pat, if you have problems, service desk is always here. Oh, Patty, Catherine, rather. Moving on to Patty at 315 Q1, I have a student who is a 5th grader that is homeschooled. We provide speech therapy. I have a school, quote unquote, set up in our SIS that has all the students who are preschool age that are not yet enrolled in our district but receive SPED services. We do this just to obtain an SSID. I have the education program as preschool, What would an education program for a fifth grader being homeschooled be? What program should I report them to CalPADS as being in? Hmm.
Well, the first thing is any student who's being homeschooled by their parent is considered to be enrolled in a private school, right? Because we don't, at the state level, there's no statute that for homeschool. So essentially, it's a private school. So this school that you've set up in your SIS, it's really important that that student be identified as a student in a private school. And my sense is that the student is probably on some sort of individualized service plan rather than an IEP. So we would need to um, confirm that. But the student would be an enrollment status 50, enrolled in the private school, and then you would report the students. Um, you would report the students' relative SPED information. But if what it looks like what you might be asking is, you know, apparently Aries has a education program field, but because this is not a preschooler, so but I will tell you that you definitely need to put them in a private school in CalPADS if you haven't already. So, but you might want to reach out to Aries on that specific field for students that are school age and are homeschooled but receiving SPED services.
Really happy you're here, Brandy.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, I see the next two are Q2s. We're going to keep going down to Kimberly at 317 Q1. I was unable to attend yesterday's SPED office hours, but I saw the slide regarding degree of support. We have until February 6th to post degree of support data to CalPADS. Is that correct? It does not need to be entered by January 23rd. All Fall 1 data needs to be resolved by February or by January 23rd. That's separate from anything that SPED has you doing. If you have issues with degree of support that's affecting Fall 1, it needs to be done by the 23rd. I am not sure what the February 6th deadline entails. I, as it happens, did not see that slide. So I'm not sure exactly what they're asking for by February 6th. Does anybody have any insight
It,
on that?
I think it has something to do with fall two,
Yeah.
that they're still able to make that change because fall two isn't over until February.
Right. So
Gotcha.
I just want to clarify that you're hearing different things because number one, obviously, we want to advocate that all of the degree of support information for the eligible students should be populated and certified as part of Fall 1. Okay, it should be by January 23rd. But as you know, we sent out a huge data quality analysis because we had like 126,000 kids that were missing that information. And some of you have been working at creating amendments and things like that to submit those transactions up to CalPADS, and you don't know whether or not it's going to happen by January 23rd. So if absolutely it cannot happen by this week's CERT deadline, all is not lost because when they actually pull the data to use for CalSAS and to send over to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, they're going to be using the data that are in the student's plan as certified on fall 2, on the fall 2 deadline. That's why. So we'd like your SELPA to take a look and verify that the student's degree of support is correct as part of fall 1. But if that is not possible by that date, you can still update that information through the fall 2 submission window because whatever's there at the end of fall 2 is what is going to be used to send over to CTC.
Thank
you for that clarification. Appreciate that.
And if I can add, so yesterday during the office hours, I think Dominic was confused. He thought that the deadline for fall 2 was February 6th. but that's just our recommendation date for when we want you to have 0 errors. The fall 2 deadline is February 27th. So that's just a typo on the slide.
I will have him fix it. Thanks, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving down to Larney's 318 Q1. If we will be reporting a resource teacher with job classification 27 with one 9231 section, no students, how will CTC connect this particular teacher to students with disabilities? Will this resource teacher be used to connect all our students with disabilities and deem us in compliance with SPED credentials? This one resource teacher is for all students with disabilities in the entire school.
So, okay. I know that currently CALPADS does not require course rosters for pull-out assignments, including resource teachers. But the only caveat to that is if you've got any English learners. If you've got English learners being provided support services by these RSP teachers, you should submit course enrollments for those students because they're English learners, and that person will be evaluated for the EL component as well as the special education component. Now, section 9231, again, when they're evaluating whether or not the teacher has the appropriate credentials in CalSAS, they are evaluating the course requirements for that course. They're not actually looking at the student population unless, as I said, there are English learners in the class and you have submitted that course roster with the English learners. Okay, so there's the potential that that course code will be evaluated against the credentialing requirements for a resource specialist, which are outlined here on the screen. And then if you've provided the course roster and there are English learners, it will also be evaluated against the EL component. So I hope that answers that question, Marnie.
All right, I think that was a very robust discussion of it. So yeah, I think that was good. Moving on to Kausalia. I'm apologizing if I'm murdering your name right now. 320 Q1. How do we report an inclusion teacher at a high school level? What is the non-classroom based job assignment code? I am not familiar with the term inclusion teacher. A teacher is coded, one of 3 ways, 12, just a teacher, 27, pull out, push in, itinerant, and then a charter instructor there. So you're going to code them however it's appropriate, but then the course selection will depend on what they're offering. I don't know what an inclusion teacher teaches or offers. Is it an orientation to the campus? Is it, a safe space homeroom? I'm not sure, but you have to search the valid codes here and find an appropriate coding for the course, and that's what you would assign them to, that one that describes what they're doing. Opposed to that, you could do the non-classroom based, and it's the same thing. You just search those definitions looking for the appropriate description of what's being done there that matches the credentialing. I'm kind of just speaking very broadly here because, again, I'm not sure what an inclusion teacher is.
And just can I add one caveat? So the term non-classroom based has led to so much confusion since the inception of CalPADS and since we started that code set. And so what we're trying to capture in the non-classroom based assignments are non-teaching assignments. Okay, so just the fact that you've called this person a teacher, if he or she is instructing students in any way, you're not going to use the non-classroom based assignments. You're going to have to use the course codes. Okay, so if in fact this person is providing direct instruction to students in a pull-out fashion, push-in fashion, or in a classroom-based fashion, you're going to use course codes. You're not going to use the non-classroom based or support assignments. Those are reserved for non-instructional assignments. I just wanted to clarify that.
Perfect. And Carla's question right below that, oddly enough, is asking about inclusion teachers. And Carla, the answer is much the same here, that if you have put them in as a teacher, they're going to need a course section. And you're going to need to search those course codes for the appropriate one that would describe what they are instructing on.
So what it sounds like in these cases is it's a teacher that is assisting the primary teacher in making sure that any students with disabilities that are fully included are receiving the supports that they need. So I would say that in those cases, you should probably look at our definition for resource support specialist to see if the inclusion teacher could use the 9231 code, because, and in that case, yes, they would need their own section. One of the really important things to remember is that, particularly if you've got a teacher, what you guys are calling an inclusion teacher, and you're reporting that teacher as associated with a general education section, meaning it's not a course specifically for students with disabilities. It's just a gen ed class that has maybe some students with disabilities in there, but also gen ed kids. If you're reporting that teacher and they have an ed specialist credential, they're going to be misassigned if you report them with the gen ed section. Okay. So you need, in those cases where they're providing support services to students with disabilities in a general education setting, you need to report that teacher's assignment separate from the primary teacher. The other option is to make sure that you list them as team teaching. Okay, so if they are team teaching or co-teaching, then it means as long as one of those teachers has the appropriate credential to teach in that gen ed setting, then they're okay. It's so funny, I'm getting all these questions because I'm doing a presentation on this at the end of next week. So
we're just helping you debug your presentation.
Thanks, appreciate that.
All right, moving on to Carrie, 322 Q1. Regarding the RSP, SDC, DIS codes. These codes still exist in our IEP system, and yet the SIS side wasn't sure if they actually needed it for anything except possibly, as mentioned, to identify some courses needed. So my question is, are those designations actually found in CALPADS reporting now, or do they just assist the people in identifying how to code the courses?
I believe those specific courses are codified in our infant program setting. I believe. So if you look at, special education program, if you look at that code set, let's see. Let me see. There's a specific, let me see, hold on one second. It is special education program type. Look at that one. That's where they're used. And so these are specific to infants. That's what these are for. But they are required for special education reporting for infants. Although infants doesn't apply to infants. What am I talking about? I would need to look at Milo. I know you're here. Do you have do you have any idea which data element uses this special education program type? I thought it was only for infants. Yeah, I think it's only for kids with IFSPs.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with these
Okay.
specific
But
codes.
we can find out. But either way, Carrie, if you want to follow up with the service ticket, we'll give you a more detailed explanation as to what they're used for. I think it's related to funding.
All right. Once again, glad you're here to help field those because I got nothing. All right, Carrie, I see your Q2. We'll come back to it. Madison 332 Q1. Who was the data quality analysis sent out to for each LEA?
So let me be clear that the data quality analysis was only for special education, and it only focused on data that pertained to the annual determinations letter and the annual performance report. Okay, so we focused on data from fall one that's going to be used in the annual determinations and the annual performance report. That set of that analysis went out to all SELPA directors. Okay, it went to your SELPA director, and the expectation was that the SELPA director, if the LEA had any data anomalies, would forward that information onto the LEA. We cannot send it directly to LEAs because it has SSIDs in it, right? We can forward it to the SELPA then disseminates it to each LEA. If you think you may have had issues with your data quality and you want to make sure that your district didn't have issues and your SELPA just did not notify you, please go ahead and send in a ticket and we can look it up and see if you actually had any results, and we can ask your SELPA directly to share those with you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hey, Brandy, I think I found the field that you were looking for. It's in the plan file type. It's 2320. Is it this one here?
Yep. No, that's the program setting. It's the one.
Oh.
No, it's a different one. It's
it's a different one.
24,
yeah.
Gary.
24. Here we go.
Yeah. And it does say IFSP.
Okay, so yeah, it's only for infants. Yes, okay, gold star for me.
All right. Moving down to Jasmine's 341 Q1. Oh, Brandy, you get to give a disquisition. Q1, can Brandy talk more about the 700 special education instructional strategy? We're an independent study, non-classroom based charter school, so we don't really have many classes that would utilize the 700 instructional strategy. But my understanding is that if we have a high percentage of special education students, which we do, having a low number of courses with 700 instructional strategy to flag us automatically for data quality scrutiny. Does attaching a 700 instructional strategy to the 9231 course code not help us with that?
Okay, so the instructional strategy code of 700 was specifically designed to identify what we used to call special day classes. Okay, so if you were an independent study, non-classroom based charter, you don't have any of these. It's an independent study program. Theoretically, any students with IEPs are probably considered receiving gen ed content. So the only time that you're going to actually, but the only exception is here, 9231. Remember, resource specialists, their job is to help students with disabilities with support in their general education settings. So chances are all of your students with disabilities are in general education settings. So we wouldn't see course code 700. You could attach it to the 9231. And in fact, we recommend that you use an instructional strategy code of 700 for course code 9231. But for CalSAS purposes, the only thing that they're evaluating, the only thing that they're looking at in that course section record is the course code. So in this case, 9231, resource specialist, the credentialing requirements, are resource specialists, added authorization, education specialists, instruction credential, mild, moderate, mod, severe. So it's all of either of those two criteria. As long as the teacher has at least one of those, then they would be considered okay and appropriately assigned. So there isn't any sort of data quality issue, specifically because you're a non-classroom based charter. You don't really have special day classes. And it's independent study. So we would expect that you wouldn't have a very high number of course assignments with 700. Unless, again, you had a specific course section that where you have an instructor assigned that is providing instruction, primary instruction in any subject, any grade to students with disabilities that are enrolled in your independent study non-classroom based charter. I hope that answered that.
Once again, thank you, Brandy. Close that out. All right, Shelley 342 Q1. I am thrown by what Brandy said about inclusion and that they can, all emphasized, be reported as a team teacher if the gen ed teacher has the appropriate credential. Did this change? I feel like I've had a very specific memory of being told that this is not team teaching because both teachers should have the appropriate credential.
And then I do want to add, Brandy, that in the FAQ, the one that I posted earlier, I can repost it. It does say to not report them as co-teaching.
Right. So all I'm saying is, and I agree, because you want, if it's a teacher that's providing like support services, RSP, you want to report that as a RSP assignment because they have specific credentialing requirements. But I have seen cases where they're reporting, and by the way, that's preferable. You're absolutely right. That way we can actually see and clearly identify any staff specifically providing services to students with disabilities. But I have seen instances where you have a gen ed teacher and an RSP teacher that are assigned to the same section, and they're listed as co-teachers, okay? Even though one of them might just be providing support services to the students with disabilities. In that case, because they are listed as, I'm just telling you how CalSAS is going to evaluate that record, okay? They're looking at both of the teachers assigned to the course section, and they're evaluating whether at least one of the teachers has the appropriate credential. If they do, then it does not generate an exception. So that's how CalSAS evaluates it. However, we would prefer that you report that staff person's assignment separately because they are providing services to students with disabilities. Whereas if you report them together, it's sort of masked. Like you don't know that that person is an RSP teacher, or in your case, an inclusion teacher.
All right, and that kind of ties in with Lily's 344 Q1, which was, Brandy, can you define a team teaching or co-teaching scenario compared to a special ed support resource teacher? So I think that you managed to cover that pretty well in both of those, or in that one answer. Lily, if you still have a concern, I'm going to leave your question up for just a minute out there. If you have more concern, just go ahead and indicate that. All right, I'm going to head back up and start hitting the Q2s, starting with Sue-Ann at 315 Q2. Does CalSAS have a list of exceptions available?
And so, Sue-Ann, I posted it in the chat.
Perfect.
But I'll put it here too.
Okay, Clarissa 316 Q2. Per the fall regional meeting, CalPADS users need to obtain a new username and password by converting their existing accounts. Can the new accounts reuse the current username user email, or is there another standard username format that will be prescribed? Or do users choose their own username? Is the transition window still set for March 2nd through May 1st?
You
Angela?
want me to tackle that one?
Yes, please.
You're going to have a brand new username, everybody will, and it will be user defined. So you can put whatever you want in there, but recommend that you do first initial and last name. So people that have kind of really common names, like our trainer here, or the data governance person here, Matt Clark, M. Clark is going to go fast, right? So once that's used, somebody that comes next and tries to use that will have to do something like M. Clark 1, M. Clark 2, and then the full username will be at calpads.org. So Clarissa, yours would be like ctom at calpads.org. And then the March date slipped a tiny bit. Right now we're targeting March 10th.
All right, excellent.
Dibs on M. Clark,
And
everyone.
you better get there first, because otherwise somebody else will.
It's gonna, yeah, good incentive to convert your account to the new username sooner rather than later. I think I'm good. Most ratties are still in Ireland, so I don't think I'll need to use any numbers in my name.
And no fair raging out and becoming, Godzilla 27 or something. You got to use your name.
Yes, that's the expected use.
All right. Thank you for the question, Clarissa. Carrie, 327Q2, we had a ticket previously, but I believe it was closed. Section 504 allows students to receive special education and related services if the team determines that they need it to access their education, even though not eligible for an IEP. Will the district with the enrolled student need to put in a help ticket knowing this is causing an error to have the student in that class? The team has communication from legal counsel confirming 504 authorizes this. So 504 students in a rostered course for special ed, and is it triggering an error for you?
I think this sounds familiar. I think this is where I can't remember the error code. The student it doesn't have a meet record, and so it's triggering when the section is a 700, but the student is not considered to be a special education student. I'll try to find it. But I think, Carrie, I don't know if you know the ticket number. If it's the one that I'm thinking about, I escalated it to CDE. Otherwise, that we may need to have another ticket.
It might be SCSE0222.
Oh, 640 sounds right, Jennifer. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. CRSE 0640F2, course identified as special ed with the gen ed student enrolled. All right. That's a great question, because if 504 students do enjoy the aegis of special ed and they're allowed into special ed courses, then it should be interrogating the SPR or the program container looking for a 504 program record at that site.
So Paul, can I chime in here? Because
Yes,
this is a
please.
question I've had like over the like 3 times now. This is like the third time I've been asked this question. So the first thing I want to specify is there's specific education code statute and IDEA statute that basically says that a student that is in a special special education class, special day class, should be a student that is a child with a disability as defined by IDEA. However, there's specific guidance that was put up by the U.S. Department of Education on students with 504 plans that seems to reference that they are may be eligible, depending on what the 504 team decides, to receive special education and related services, even though they haven't met that need. So the bottom line is, right now, you're going to get this error if you have kids with 504 plans in a special day class, which means the rest of the students are students with disabilities per the IDEA definition. Right now, the only workaround for this is to clear all of your fall 2 errors. And if this is the last one left, submit a request for override. That's the only way you're going to do it, because these are really, really unique situations. And the other thing I want to strongly recommend is that you confirm with your local legal counsel that it's appropriate to have that student in a class that is designed specifically for students with disabilities under IDEA. And if they've said, okay, then you should be okay. But just make sure you defer to your local legal counsel.
All right, we got about 4 or 5 more questions, and we're coming right up on the hour. Just turned 4, so if you have to leave, thank you for being here. I don't want to steal your time. We'll see you next week. If you need help getting certified, get in touch with the service desk. If you have a problem before next week, get in touch with the service desk. Otherwise, I'm going to continue on here. Eric, 332 Q2. Are students enrolled in LIP programs categorized solely by the program code, 301, 302, etc., or in combination with the section or course information when reporting the education service code, 1, primary language instruction, designated integrated English language development, ELD instruction? I honestly don't know what the application is for those program codes. I know, let's see, what is that? Yeah, I'm not sure about the application side of it. I'm sure that somebody is doing an analysis on the back end that is taking into account the program, that the language instruction program they're enrolled in versus the course code that they're enrolled in. But I'm just not privy to it. We're much more on the front end on the data side, and when it's extracted, other people do things with it that we don't know about. Does anybody on the line?
I know that.
Yep.
Yeah, I know that when I was there, I don't know if it's changed since. We weren't doing any sort of direct correlation between the language immersion programs and the education service codes. I know that there probably is some correlation, but we're not validating it, and we're not validating it for a reason. Because my assertion is right now, it's not something that's solely defining the criteria for selection of the dual language program or the LIP, language immersion program.
Okie doke. Quickly moving on to Lily, 344. She would like an example of a team teaching situation that should be reported as such.
So team teaching, as I understand it, is 2 teachers that are in the classroom at the same time, and they are both providing instruction to all students in the class, right? And I actually just had a scenario where I worked with a district, and she said, no, these are The special education teacher and the gen ed teacher are working together and they're teaching all students in the classroom, right? That is a team teaching scenario where they're both present at the same time in the classroom, and they're providing supports to all instruction and supports to all students within the class. So if that's the scenario, you could report them as team teaching. If you have one pushing in just to provide supports to a specific group, students with disabilities, then it's probably best to report them as RSP teachers.
All right, thank you for that. Moving on to Larney 349 Q2, follow up to my Q1. But we are not sending our roster students for a CSE in the 9231 section. Why would an EL be assessed for that one resource teacher? My understanding is that the 9231 section will only be used as a clearance that we have a credentialed SPED teacher supporting our student with disabilities in the school. No? And Brandy, can we attend that meeting where you will be presenting that slide?
Only if you're a credential analyst. Yeah, I'm presenting for a specific group of credential analysts in Yolo County, a state credential analyst group, but the meeting is going to be in Yolo County next week. But I'd be happy to share the content with you once I do it. So the answer to your question is you're not required to send a course roster. Okay. You're not going to get any validations that tell you not to. But if CTC had their way, they would want rosters for every single pullout section, because the EL component, if you are a person providing any services or instruction to an English learner, you're required to have the appropriate EL authorizations, bottom line. So whether or not the CalPADS office decides to move in that direction at a later date, I don't know. I can just tell you from an assignment monitoring perspective, that is something that should be evaluated for an RSP teacher in addition to the special education credentialing component.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Shelley at 355 Q1 regarding the new CalPADS username, and this is also from Sue-Ann and John. They all are surrounding this question. So the next two questions are going to be these. Regarding the new CalPADS username, what if we work at numerous districts? Will we need different usernames for each of them, I assume? John says, to clarify, the new username is mandatory for every current CalPADS user, with the format of first initial last name until that particular username is taken, then incremented by one for each later user. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the best practice that we're recommending. Obviously, we can't enforce it. So yeah, John, you're going to want to jump in there because your name's common as well. And what time was didn't you say there was another question?
Oh, Shelley at 355 was regarding the new CalPADS usernames. What if we work at numerous districts?
Oh,
Will
there
we
it
need
is.
different usernames for each of them, assume?
No, one username. So, and all of your existing accounts are going to port over, so you won't have to start from scratch. So all of your roles and your existing LEAs that you're associated with will come with you on the new username.
All right. Well, this has been an exciting Q&A. And Brandy, top shelf, if you want to feel good about yourself, go to the chat box and look through it right now. People are, just all about you today. So be happy about that. Enjoy your presentation next week with the credential analysts. And in the meantime, everybody else, get on Fall 1, please. We only have until Friday at 11:59 p.m. If you have a concern, a question, a problem, please put in a service desk ticket. We'll get to you as quickly as we can. Otherwise, we will see you back here next week, same time, same place. I just won't be hosting.